Disclaimer, I'm not a Deltarune theorist. If someone has already said all these points or something, ignore it and pretend I said it first. Okay, so I've got a lot to say. Ever since this fight came out, I've seen people dismiss this fight as making fun of the fans, or just being here to deconfirm Mike as an important character, of course. First and foremost, this is a joke fight, but I honestly don't think it deconfirms Mike at all. If anything, it just added more fuel to the fire, but in a different direction. Not only that, but I think this fight has a ton of stuff that ties into stuff outside of Mike as well. I won't be going over everything, just the ideas that I myself have come up with and observations I've noticed. This is my super awesome mega super Mike theory. Okay, well, not actually, it's closer to like multiple mini theories about the Mike room / trio. I think this room is more important than people were first led to believe, and whether you believe some of these connections or all of these connections is up to you, but they're made to be mostly self-contained. Also, before I begin talking about Mike, know that I believe the person on the phone is Gaster, and also that Gaster is the buzz. Blah blah blah, I'll put the evidence on screen. It doesn't really change anything except that if Mike is the guy on the phone, Mike has to also be Gaster. And that's not really supplemented by any evidence other than like Crackpot Pippin's theory. Also kind of hinges on how you interpret this spamton line. Okay, now onto the actual analysis. First off, what do we almost certainly know about Mike? We know Mike is connected to both Tenna and Spamton. Despite working for Tenna, Spamton harbors no ill will towards him, and him in particular. Spamton also seems to miss Mike. Obviously the question is why, but I'll save that for later. We also know Tenna's employees have never seen him, and that Tenna noticed that he acted different after Spamton left. I think it's pretty easy to assume Mike is real as well. Small Mike and Cowboy Mike both bring up the idea that Mike is not real in some sense. The idea that Mike is not real is constantly questioned and implicitly deconfirmed, however, because things sometimes just fix themselves, that the initial concept of Mike had to come from somewhere, that Tenna notices changes in Mike, and that Tenna gets upset if there's not a Mike in the Mike room, implying Mike also has a physical form. That first one about things fixing themselves is extra important because it implies that the real Mike is still around. If Mike was really just some joke with no importance, why put so much effort into adding to the mystery by pointing out situations where Mike is still implied to exist? As this room is a tech demo for the Switch 2 version, I believe it to be the definitive or true version of this room. The only game that keeps its name is Pluie, but the bio for it is different on the non-Switch version. Bring chosen ones to the Ark. Wow, okay, well, that doesn't sound like it has any implications at all. Anyway, in Raise Up Your Bat, there's the line with your heart as the Ark, which doesn't sound like it has any implications at all. Okay, I'll stop joking. In the context of Raise Up Your Bat as a song Desk makes, the lines with your heart as my mark also being sung, it paints the picture that your heart, your soul will be what saves or protects Desk, but that it also is her mark. In this context, a target, so she is trying to kill what will save her. Us. Easy Desk Knight, right? Well, with the context of Pluie also saying we bring chosen ones to the Ark, it brings to mind the heroes of prophecy. Having us as the Ark might protect the heroes, but leave everyone else in the dust. Or maybe we are the mark for the chosen ones also, and that we will have to fight them even though we want to, or are going to save them. The Mike motif also appears in Raise Up Your Bat about 40 seconds in. As far as I'm aware, it's the only song outside of the Scrap Sneaking song to include the Mike motif. Any connections to Desk, or the holidays in general with Mike seem important, especially since we know Spamton is connected to them vaguely. Okay, fine, I've already held off on it for too long, let's talk about the Mike songs. The Mikes have 3 songs: Volume Adjustment, before the fake Mike fight, Cat Swing, during the fake Mike fight and when playing Jongler, Pluie, Pluie Switch or main performances, and Airwaves, which plays during Batot or, as the name suggests, Airwaves. As I already said, I'm going to be thinking about the Switch 2 version as the definitive version, which is clearly supplemented here by the name of the minigame where Airwaves plays being the same as the song that goes with it. As briefly mentioned before, the fake mics actually have a leitmotif which plays during Volume Adjustment and Cat Swing. Volume Adjustment has only the mic motif, Cat Swing has mics, Tennas, Spamtons, and Tenna and Spamton's shared leitmotif Hey Every. However, I want to single out Airwaves here. As many have pointed out, it includes the ever-popular Freedom motif. Since most people didn't play Chapter 4 on a Switch 2, they're more familiar with the song being on the game associated with Small Mike. But in the Switch version, it plays during the game associated with Cowboy Mike. What is also important here though, is that the Mike leitmotif does not play during Airwaves. Airwaves also sounds extremely different from the other 2 songs, and doesn't include Tenna in any way. No Tenna theme, no Hey Every. Only Spamton's theme. In fact, Cat Swing, the trio's main song, includes much more of Spamton's leitmotif than Tenna's by a large amount. But why is that? Canonically, these guys work for Tenna, and they don't even know who Spamton is. You could argue the connection between Cat Mike and Spamton's glasses, but Cat Mike's glasses actually are the same scheme as Friends, not Spamton's. Why does only one game out of all of them get a unique theme named after it? It's the only minigame that is mentioned verbally, and the minigame shown in the trailer for chapters 3 and 4. There's this weird focus on this specific minigame. Why? The inclusion of the Freedom motif is weird as well, since these guys have nothing to do with freedom at all. In fact, nothing about this song connects to freedom at all, right? Yeah. So we have this song, Airwaves, which plays during the game with the Cowboy Mike, based on the Woody Theory puppet cowboy that sounds nothing like the rest of the songs, doesn't connect back to the fake mics with a leitmotif or similar sound, and only includes Spamton's motif and the Freedom motif. Clearly, to me here, this is breaking the connection between the song and the fake mics, which does not have the Freedom motif, importantly, to close or show this song's connection to Spamton. But if it's connected to Spamton, why is it here? Well, there's an obvious middle ground here. I believe Airwaves is the real Mike's theme. Well, maybe not literally, it still plays during the fake Mike minigames after all, but I mean more of a representation of who Mike is as a person. If we believe this idea of Airwaves being Mike's song, we get the idea that Mike is not only connected to freedom, but also that Mike is more connected to Spamton than to Tenna. I think the song being on Cowboy Mike is less about the cowboy connection, but rather the connection to puppetry. Either that Mike is a puppet for something, or that he puppets Spamton. The fact it is on the song Airwaves in particular, with Airwaves being what gives TV its broadcast, also is similar to this puppetry connection. It also is possible evidence for Mike being a secret boss later on with the connection to freedom motif. If you believe in this, it gives us very little, but compared to how much we know about Mike already, quite a bit. Don't worry, my next idea is also absurd. I think we should look at what the Green Pippin says a little more closely. Here we through text assume these things about Mike and makes these theories about Mike. There's only one real Mike. Mike is definitely a microphone. Mike is definitely a cat. Mike is definitely a cowboy. Mike is Tenna's imaginary friend. Mike is Tenna's alter ego. The fake Mikes are the real Mike. There can't be no Mike. The real Mike would be the strongest. Mike always talks loudly. Mike always dances silently. Chris/the Fun Gang is Mike. Chris/the Fun Gang is not Mike. No one has ever seen him. A lot of these can be deconfirmed or confirmed by the idea that there is a real, physical Mike out there. If we consider thinking of these specifically in context of the fake Mikes, some of these would automatically be confirmed true or false. Now, I'm not saying that the truth about Mike has to inherently be true to the fake Mikes, but it's something you should keep in mind for these next 2 points. Not all 3 Mikes are cowboys or cats, so we can't be sure if this is true. However, it is true that all 3 fake Mikes incorporate microphones into them in some way along with the big one to the right. This on its own doesn't confirm Mike as a microphone, but all 3 theories that the fake Mikes are based on do not imply that Mike is a microphone at all. Why randomly add microphone imagery to all 3 of these characters if Mike wasn't a microphone? Mike has also implicitly been characterized as someone who listens in, which would fit a microphone well. But this is a pretty easy idea to swallow, which is why I put it first. Okay, well, I've saved this one for last out of all the points because it's not nearly as easy to justify. But in context of the fake Mikes, we know this isn't true. Look, I'm looking at multiple right now. Okay, there isn't a lot of evidence pointing to the idea either way on how many Mikes there are. It's mostly narrative justification, but bear with me. I really think there is 2 or maybe more real Mikes. The idea that there can only be one is immediately pushed onto you the second you enter the room, and is later the reason you can do the fake Mikes mini games, because they need to find which singular one of them will be Mike. While this is deconfirmed when the other Mikes show up, we now know they're fake, and it's later reiterated by small Mike when the mini games are unlocked. Chapter 3 and 4 especially really play with the idea of defying or following ideas incorrectly, subjective ideas that are pushed as an objective fact. In Chapter 3, there is the multitudes of times the mantle is said to be required to beat tonight. And in Chapter 4, do I even have to say it? But outside of that, 2 Mikes existing would solve a lot of plot holes that we have for Spamton and Tenna's stories. We know that Mike still works for Tenna, but we also know that Spamton misses and cares for Mike as well. Since Spamton hates Tenna and everyone associated with him, what would cause him to still like Mike? Well, of course, taking his side in the divorce. If Mike stopped associating with Tenna for him, Spamton would obviously like him more. But since we know Mike still works for Tenna, he can't do both, unless there are 2. Mike changing after Spamton leaves could be the first Mike leaving, or Mike being sad that his fellow Mike went away. If one Mike left, maybe the other would get like depressed or something and not appear physically anymore. It's possible that the change is just from original Mike who goes with Spamton to the fake Mikes, but then it doesn't explain the somethings that just happened that implies Mike is still around. Small Mike also says Tenna doesn't care what Mike is in the Mike room, and supposedly thinks they're all the same person. This would make sense if there was more than one, because Tenna might already be under the impression that Mike could change appearance, or already knew there was more than one Mike and thought they were just adding to the Mike count. Deltarune is not opposed to putting 2 characters in the same role either, as in Chapter 3 both the weather duo are second in command at once, and in Chapter 4 we have whatever this is. If you want to go with my other idea that Airwaves is the theme for Mike, this would obviously be the theme for the Mike that goes with Spamton, because all of the Tenna motifs are cut out. Well, those are all my Mike thoughts off the top of my head. If we got into friend and more about Mike or the rest of the secret bosses, we'd be here forever. Sorry if the video was too fast, I didn't want to make it a super long slog. Really wanted people to hear everything ASAP. I know a lot of this video is operating off of assumption, so please remember this is just for fun and I'm just trying my best to piece everything together. If you have any evidence for or against any ideas in this video, please tell me in the comments. Thanks for watching.